Hello, everybody. Hi, Bill, Susan, Julie, Michael, Matt. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. My name is Ashton. I moved from Oklahoma, where I did my undergrad in film production, so I'm also a filmmaker like Susan, in August of 2017. So I moved from Oklahoma here to the Bay Area then to begin pursuing a master's in PCC. And I was attracted to PCC because I felt that through it, I could be sort of made over and gain this framework for making the kind of art that I have felt myself drawn to making, which is art that has been a way for me to transform my life and to tie me back with the world. So this kind of religious impulse, myth-making, meaning-making impulse. And now, increasingly, I feel that I would like to make art that does that for other people. So I want to make art that is re-enchanting and impact. And so what I mean by that is art that helps people to recognize meaning and soul in their lives and in the world. So to connect with the blog post that Matt shared, the kind of art I want to create speaks to and strikes a chord in the imagination rather than just and I think that's the power of art in general, right? Art that really resonates with us. And I am really excited by the perspective of art that Joseph Beuys puts forward, that Matt shared, this idea of social sculpture, and this perspective of art that doesn't put artists on a pedestal as this unique individual in society, but instead is an understanding that reflects the perspective of an evolutionary cosmos being a creative one. So then every expression of the cosmos is endowed with that same creativity and participates in it as a creative being. So I've always felt, even when I was younger, there's this tendency for people to say, oh, the artist, that person's so creative, just kind of not disavowing that in themselves. And I always want to inspire others to recognize that we're all creative. So, and I think Beuys' idea of social sculpture, or this perspective of art and creativity that expands to include everyone, is one that reflects a pluralism. So it's this, and then I think there's this other idea or other word that relates that I've discovered through Matt and other readings, connected readings that I haven't read that I think we're going to read. Cosmopolitical art. So art where the polis is extended to include the whole cosmos and every being of the cosmos, and this idea of multinaturalism, where in contrast to multiculturalism, there's accepted that there are many worlds or many visions, experiences, or perspectives of the world related to the many natures or the many bodily conditions that filter those various experiences of the world. So just to connect with what Susan was describing in relation to this metaphor of having multiple perspectives to build toward a bigger picture, like a bigger understanding of a world, of the world, of a world, of our worlds. kind of like a lot of cameras that see things a little differently and share that with each other. An intersubjective creation, like what Julie's dissertation is focused on, which sounds really exciting. I echo what Matt said. So yeah, I think art as the enaction, as the sharing of different perspectives, could be a way for us to move towards this ecological civilization where there's representation not just on behalf of all different kinds of human beings, but of all kinds of different creatures, whether we would think of them as conventionally living or not. So I have been reading this book called The Novel of the Future, which was written by a woman, an artist named, among many other things, named Anais Nin. That's how you pronounce it, apparently. I looked it up so that I could pronounce it correctly for you guys. And I mention this because of this idea of intersubjectivity and becoming with that we will be becoming with over the semester, because it wouldn't be, it'd be dishonest for me not to share that I've been saturated with her ideas and that my perspective, the perspective that I'm sharing with you right now, is partly hers too. So I've been becoming with her, though she's not a different species, or maybe it depends on how you think about it. She was alive decades ago, so I guess we've changed a little bit since then. But anyway, she in this book, The Novel of the Future, it's a theory of art, basically, narrative art specifically. She published her diaries, and she also wrote novels, and there was, over time, throughout her life, the boundary between those two things began to blur, and she really absorbed the implications of new paradigm sciences and relativity and depth psychology, and tried to marry what she recognized to a conception of art. And what she really emphasizes is that we can't get beyond our subjective experience to some kind of objectivity beyond the kind of objectivity that we can achieve by imagining into the perspective of another. And so, in her perspective, there's not this sharp division between psychological reality and objective reality. And so that's what the growing or the diminishing boundary between her diaries and her novels brought home to her, and what she just knew so intimately and really championed amidst a lot of criticism. So I just think her perspective is valuable for us here, with the opportunity to create art in this course as an enaction of the pluralistic perspective. So the first quote I'll share is related to the subjective perspective. So she says, "People are concerned about what is left out of a personal vision, but the personal vision is closer to the laser light, more intense, more effective, and the reaches of its intensity are concentrated. One is not trapped by a subjective vision," in contrast to like the circle of consciousness that we can't escape. So she's sort of batting up against a movement of realism, which she's very critical of. And then elsewhere she writes, describing narrative as an enaction, in my perspective, of pluralism. And then she's also diagnosing and prescribing some medicine for the alienation that she was recognizing even in 1968 when she was writing in Art Culture. So she writes, wrong page. Identification and empathy are the opposites of alienation and separation. They also achieve the opposite. They bring one inside a human being, in intimate contact with him, so that one can understand his motivations, relate to him. So she's using the masculine pronoun when she's describing humanity, sympathy for history. This more closely resembles the way we live our relationships and friendships and loves than the way in which many produce insulation caused by pseudo-objectivity. In the pseudo-objectivity I am writing about, something takes place which resembles the process of embalming. And further on she says, projection and identification are living ways of experiencing the life of another. So she's distilling from depth psychology these tendencies of projection and identification and re-envisioning them as ways that the artist can, or as tools for the artist to help others empathize or live into or imagine what it's like to be something else. They can create empathy, putting yourself in the skin of another. They can help us to reconstruct the motivation, the feelings, the impulses of others. They are a method of understanding. And then in relation to becoming with, and the transformation of oneself, she writes elsewhere, the only danger, of course, is the loss of himself in the other, as frequently happens in love. But there is no life without danger. And the other danger, the danger of alienation, and through alienation, non-love, or hatred, or destructiveness, dehumanization, I consider far greater. So art has the power to bring us closer to each other and to understand what it's like to be someone else. But it also participates in the future by imagining what could be, or imagining into new scientific discoveries that haven't really reverberated to our everyday lives. And on page 98, she writes, long before the science... Oh, actually, above this, she says, the poet brings the dissected plants to life, because the poet is primarily the lover of the world, and therefore he alone can make us fall in love. So by poet, you could just say creative being. Very few of us are necrophilic and fall in love with dead matter after it has been dissected by the intellectual. Long before the scientists made flight in space possible, the poets conceived of the emotional adventures in flight, timelessness, levitation. Only when the poet and the scientist work in unison will we have living experiences and knowledge of the marvels of the universe as they are being discovered, not yet embalmed in museums. A limited language does not prepare us for unusual experiences. Words acquire, every moment, totally different meanings. A word like moon meant something to the Romantics which it does not mean to us now. Often new words become necessary in order to express a novel experience accurately and completely. So, yeah, again, just to reiterate the power and the necessity of art in relation to science as well, if we are to build a picture or a conception of the world, maybe an ecological conception of an ecological civilization, art is indispensable for us if we are to live into that. So anyway, I just wanted to share these ideas in hopes that maybe they catalyze ideas in you, or maybe inspire us all towards the creative projects that we have an opportunity to create in this class. So I look forward to becoming with all of you and to being made over by all the ideas that we'll be encountering in this class. So thank you.